Nobody could believe what was going to happen. The courtroom fell silent, but the atmosphere was thick and almost crushing, like a storm on the verge of unleashing its full fury. Seating rows of viewers stood shoulder to shoulder, their murmurs dying out as the gravity of the moment weighed upon them. It wasn't any trial. It was the trial. The type of case that everyone in the country was talking about, the type of tale that destroyed families and was in the headlines for months. Cameras snapped in brief, fierce bursts, capturing every flash of feeling. Reporters leaned forward, pens held over pads. They were not merely reporting a case today. They were recording a breakdown, a disaster, an event no one could look away from. At its center, there sat Kody Brown. His normally assertive stance was absent. Instead, he slumped forward slightly, his hands shaking on the table in front of him. His face was pale and wan, sweat beading at his hairline. The man who had once exuded unshakable authority now seemed shattered. The murmurs started up again, hushed but cutting. "Do you think he's guilty? I never thought it would come to this. It's his own family turning on him. Can you believe it?" Across the room, Christine Brown sat rigidly, jaw clenched, staring hard at Kody. There was no warmth present that the public had become accustomed to seeing on television. Instead, there was a cold, burning resolve. This was not the Christine the public had come to adore on television. This was a fighter, a mom, a woman who had been lied to one too many times. Next to Christine was Janelle, her cheeks smeared with silent tears. She wasn't here to battle, but to stand up for her children, for the truth. Her fingers shook a little as she held a tissue, her heart crumbling as she got ready to testify against the man she once had a life with. Beside her, Meri gazed down at the table, barely avoiding Kody's eye. She seemed tired, the kind of person who carried too many secrets for too long. There was bitterness to her refusal to speak, but also hurt. She hadn't come here out of hatred, but because she couldn't bear to sit by and see the deception go on. And Robyn, alone on the other side of the courtroom, her hands covering her face as she wept. Her snuffles were submerged, but heard more loudly than any voice. This was her family as well, but now she sat alone, accused by some, sympathized with by others. The judge brought down his gavel, the hard crack silencing the murmurs. "Judge, order in the court. Everyone will be quiet until this trial starts." The crowd fell silent immediately. The tension was suffocating. The weight of the charges. The bailiff read out the charges, each sentence cutting through the silence like a knife. As the charges mounted, Kody's face grew darker. He glanced at Robyn, but she couldn't look him in the eye. She was shaking her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. Christine's chest heaved and fell as she balled her fists. Each accusation read out was another shard of her heart exposed to the world. Reporters whisper, "This isn't about lies. It's about Garrison." The mere mention of his name caused a shiver in the room. Some gasped, others lowered their heads. It was a tragedy none had fully healed from. And now it was at the very eye of this case. Kody shifted restlessly, his hands passing over his face. His lips quivered as though he wished to say something, to protest, but nothing passed his lips. The first witness steps forward. The rear doors of the courtroom swung open, and Christine entered as the first witness. The audience leaned forward instantly. She was holding a heavy folder, her face pale and determined. She avoided looking at Kody as she proceeded to the witness stand. Having been sworn in, Christine's voice pierced through the courtroom, clear and firm even with the sparkle of tears in her eyes. "Christine, what I'm going to tell you is going to change everything you think you know about this family." Gasps filled the air. Reporters scurried to get down on paper each word. Cameras zoomed in, shooting the raw emotion written across her face. Christine unfolded the folder and raised a picture. It was of Garrison, smiling warmly, a striking contrast to the sadness in the room. "Christine, this is my son Garrison. He deserved love, support, and protection. But instead, he was met with indifference and cruelty. And the man responsible is sitting right there." Her finger pointed directly at Kody. The crowd erupted, voices overlapping in disbelief and anger. The judge slammed the gavel. "Judge, Order, I will have silence in my courtroom. Kody's mouth fell open. That's not true, he shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. Kody, I loved him. Christine interrupted him, her voice rising to fury. Christine, you loved control. Kody, you loved being the center of everything. But when he needed you most, you turned your back on him. Robyn cried harder, covering her face with her hands. Janelle grasped her breast, repressing a scream of sorrow. Even Meri's tough exterior crumbled, and silently shed tears down her face. The courtroom explodes. The tension mounted. Journalists yelled questions. The gallery hummed with whispers and conjecture. Christine waved more evidence. Text messages, letters, voicemails, all revealing the distance and coldness Garrison had felt from his father. Christine? These are his words. His pain. And now he's gone, and we can never bring him back. The crowd gasped once more, some openly sobbing. Kody pounded his hands on the table, his voice angry. Kody, you blame this all on me? You think I wanted this to happen? Christine, you poisoned our family. You turned us all against you. Janelle rose, trembling with anger. Janelle, don't you dare blame Christine for your shortcomings. You pushed Garrison away. You pushed all of us away. The judge banged the gavel several times. Judge, order. If you cannot restrain yourselves, I will empty this courtroom. But the harm was irreparable. The whole room was a war zone of emotion. Anger, sorrow, betrayal, guilt, the turning point. The judge turned to Christine. Judge, Mrs. Brown, continue your testimony, please. Christine nodded, her hands trembling as she put the folder on the stand. Christine, for so long we were instructed to be quiet, to maintain the reputation of our family. But silence has cost us too much. It cost Garrison his peace of mind, and now it has cost him his life. Today, I will not remain quiet anymore. She gazed straight at Robyn, whose sobs had subsided into shattered whimpers. Christine, and you sat beside him while the rest of us tore ourselves apart. You sat and gazed away. Robyn raised her head, tears streaming her face. Robyn, I tried to hold the family together. I didn't want this. Christine's face was inflamed with anger. Christine, then you should have confronted him. Robyn, you should have stopped this before things went too far. The room was quiet now, holding its collective breath. The cliffhanger ending of Section 1. The judge rubbed his temples wearily. Judge, this court will recess for 15 minutes. When we resume, we will hear the evidence. As they all rose, the air was thick with tension. You could practically choke on it. Reporters rushed towards the doors, screaming into cameras about the dramatic testimony. Kody faced Robyn, a mask of rage and terror on his face. Kody, don't you see what they're doing? They're destroying me. Robyn said nothing. She simply glared at him with empty eyes, tears silently falling. Christine climbed down from the stand and passed Kody by, without looking at him. Janelle trailed behind, touching Christine's shoulder with her hand in wordless support. Meri hung back for an instant, glancing at Kody one more time before she whispered, Meri, this didn't have to end like this. And then she departed. The flashes of the camera grew more frequent. The world was holding its breath. And everybody understood. The time court reopened, the deepest secrets of the Brown family would at last be unveiled. The doors of the courtroom creaked shut as the 15-minute recess time expired. The murmurs of voices dwindled into an expectant hush. The judge entered, his black robe billowing behind him like a cloak of power. Judge, court is in session. Bailiff, call the next witness. Christine, Janelle and Meri sat now, side by side, a concerted front. Their complexions were pale, but their faces unyielding. Robyn alone across the aisle, wiping her eyes with a tissue, and Kody slumped forward, hissing hot into his lawyer's ear. The room was a war zone, where everyone had already picked a side. The bailiff called out, Bailiff, Mrs. Janelle Brown, take the stand. Janelle's testimony, a mother's sorrow. Janelle slowly got up, as if the burden of her sorrow weighed heavily on her shoulders. She passed Kody without turning to him, her jaw clenched, her hands shaking. As she stood before the witness stand, She breathed deeply and raised her right hand. Bailiff, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Janelle cracking voice. I do. She sat down and looked directly in front of her, refusing to look at Kody. Prosecutor, Mrs. Brown, can you describe your relationship with your son Garrison? Mention of the name Garrison caused Janelle's eyes to fill up with tears. She clasped her hands together, her voice trembling as she started to speak. Janelle Garrison, he was my boy. He had the best heart, the biggest dreams. He wanted to serve his country, help make a difference in this world. She takes a hard swallow. But he also wrestled with feeling unseen, unloved. He so desperately needed the approval of his father. And he never got it. The crowd murmured softly, some wiping their eyes. Christine bowed her head, tears streaming freely. Even Meri's stoic expression faltered. Janelle turned to the jury, her voice gaining strength. Janelle, he tried to reach out to his father so many times. He called, he texted. He begged for Kody to listen to him, to see him. But Kody pushed him away. Time and time again, she reached into her pocket and drew out a crumpled piece of paper. Janelle, this is the last message Garrison ever sent me. Her voice broke as she unfolded the paper to read aloud. Garrison's message read by Janelle. Mom, I'm sick of struggling to find my place in this family. I'm sick of feeling that I'm not good enough. Tell Dad I love him, even if he can't love me. A gasp of shock echoed through the courtroom. Even journalists hardened over years of reporting on tragedies wept behind their eyes. Robyn wept into her tissue, muttering, "Oh Garrison." Janelle turned, finally meeting Kody's eyes. Her voice shook with anger and sorrow. Janelle, do you hear that, Kody? That was your son's last cry. And you couldn't even answer the phone. Kody winced, his face twisting with anguish. He opened his mouth to speak, but the prosecutor held up a hand. Prosecutor, Mr. Brown, you will have your say later. But for now you are silent. The judge nodded severely, and Kody hunched back in his chair, his jaw tight. Janelle took a breath and went on, her voice gentler now. Janelle, I don't care about being famous, or rich, or TV shows. I just want my son to have justice. I want the world to understand that he was better than this, than all of us, but particularly than his father. When Janelle stepped down from the stand, the entire courtroom rose to their feet, clapping softly despite the judge's attempts to quiet them. It was a moment of raw humanity that no one could deny. Meri's testimony, a lifetime of silence. The bailiff called the next witness. Bailiff Meri Brown, please take the stand. Meri stood, her steps slow, as if every step weighed decades of accumulated pain. Contrary to Janelle, she did not weep audibly. Her anguish was more subtle, denser, like a rock submerged at the bottom of a black river. After taking the oath, she sat with her palms clasped together, her face impassive. Prosecutor, Mrs. Brown, you've been a member of this family longest. Can you tell us your take? Meri took a deep breath, her voice low and even. Meri, I was there at the start of this family. I thought I shared Kody's vision of oneness, of love, of living a life in which we could all help each other. Her lips quivered a little, but somewhere along the line, that dream passed away. She flung a cold glance at Kody. Meri, I kept quiet for years. I said it was for the kids, for the reputation of the family. But the reality is my silence made me an accomplice. I saw Kody play favorites with one wife over the others, one group of children over the others. And I didn't intervene. The gallery was completely silent, hanging on her every word. Meri, when Garrison came to me, weeping, questioning why his father didn't love him, I didn't know what to say. What do you say to a child when the truth is too ugly to say? She covered her face momentarily, then stood up straight. Meri, I will not be silent anymore. I owe that much to Garrison, and to every other child in this family, who felt abandoned. She walked out in silence, leaving the room awed by her tacit authority. Robyn's breakdown. There was no time to call the next witness, because suddenly Robyn stood up, her face tear-streaked. Robyn, please. I have to say something. The judge hesitated, then nodded. Judge, very well. Come to the stand. Robyn stumbled forward to the front. When she turned to the court, she resembled a woman totally shattered. Robyn, I know what everybody thinks about me. That I tore this family apart. That I took Kody's love away from the others. And maybe there is some truth to that. Her voice broke, and she gripped her chest. Robyn, but I never wanted it. I never wanted anyone to be hurt. I tried to keep the peace. To keep us together. But Kody, she had turned to face him, her eyes brimming with pain. You didn't want peace. You wanted control. Kody's face went red. Kody, that's not true. I did all of this for this family. Robyn shook her head furiously. Robyn, no. Kody, you did everything for you. You turned us against one another. You ignored the children who needed you most. And now Garrison is gone. And there is nothing that can mend that. The courtroom exploded into pandemonium. Reporters cried out in shouts. Observers screamed in dismay. And the judge repeatedly pounded his gavel. Judge, order. Order, this is your final warning. Robyn broke into wails. And a bailiff led her gently back to her seat. Christine's last words. Christine returned to the witness stand. For a final closing statement. Christine, you've heard the truth today. From Janelle, from Meri, even from Robyn. This isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. She raised a framed photograph of Garrison, her hands shaking. Christine, he deserved to have a full happy life. But he didn't. Because the man who was supposed to protect him turned his back. I don't care what happens to me after this trial. I just want justice for my son. Tears misted over her eyes. But her voice was clear and firm. Christine, let the truth finally be heard. The courtroom breeze as one as Christine came down from the stand. A heavy silence descended on the room. It was as if everyone had been holding their breath through the testimonies and could only now breathe out. Kody sat by himself, his face white, his hands locked on the table so hard his knuckles were white. For the first time, the once dominant patriarch appeared diminutive, frail, and completely vanquished. The judge cleared his throat. Judge, we will continue tomorrow to go over evidence and hear from the defense. In the meantime, this court is in recess. The gavel came down. The clap reverberated like a gunshot. As individuals exited, the air was filled with whispers. Reporters scrambled to cameras, their words breathless, as they summarized the day's shocking testimonies. Christine, Janelle, and Meri exited together. As one, Robyn stayed behind, caught between loyalty and truth. And Kody sat immobilized in his chair, the burden of the accusations weighing him down. The evidence would be revealed tomorrow. But today had revealed the raw, unfiltered pain of a fractured family. And everybody knew. The worst was yet to be. The next day, the courtroom was more packed than ever. Lines had been waiting outside hours in advance. Reporters pushed against each other, their cameras at the ready to catch every expression, every tear, every second of devastation about to ensue. The bailiff's voice echoed as he opened the doors. Bailiff, all rise. The Honorable Judge Patterson presiding. The room remained standing as the judge stepped in, his own face tight and unreadable. The atmosphere seemed as though it could shatter with the intensity of so many feelings converging into one room. Judge, please sit down. Today we are going to go over fresh evidence that could be pivotal in this case. All of them sat, but the tension was too much to bear. Christine held Janelle's hand in a tight grip. Meri sat stiff, her eyes gazing straight ahead, her mouth clamped into a thin line. Robyn shifted uncomfortably, fingering a crumpled tissue in her lap. And Kody's face was white, his eyes scanning the room like an animal in a cage, searching for escape. The surprise witness. The prosecutor rose, grasping a sealed evidence box. Prosecutor, Your Honor, we heard some emotional testimony yesterday. Today we're bringing some hard evidence. In this box are records, audio tapes, and personal belongings that we received recently from a person who has decided to come forward. The judge's eyebrow lifted. Judge, and who might that be? The prosecutor smiled weakly. Prosecutor, the individual is present. Your Honor, he will testify under oath. The doors at the rear of the courtroom creaked open. A collective gasp hung in the air. It was Logan Brown, Kody's oldest son. Christine's jaw dropped. Janelle covered her chest with a hand. Even Meri emitted a soft, shocked whisper. Robyn stood stock still, her sobbing cut off at once. Kody's whole body stiffened. His face turned red with anger as rage coursed through him. Kody, no. No, you can't do this. He has no right. Judge, Mr. Brown, you sit down and be quiet, or I will hold you in contempt. The courtroom exploded into whispering and murmurs. As Logan approached the stand, his jaw clenched, his eyes laced with pain, but determination. Logan's testimony. The hidden truth. Logan held up his right hand. Bailiff, do you swear to tell the truth? The whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Logan, I do. The prosecutor walked slowly up to him. Prosecutor. Logan, why have you come in today to testify? Logan's voice was calm, but his hands clutched the rail of the witness stand, so hard his knuckles whitened. Logan, because I can't remain silent anymore. I've been covering for my father too long. We all have. Christine and Janelle's eyes welled with tears. Even Meri's face went soft with emotion. Logan, I adored Garrison. He was more than my brother. He was my pal. And I saw him fall further into suffering. As Dad disdained him. We all did. We just let it occur. But I do have something to share with you. Something nobody else has ever laid eyes on. Logan nodded to the prosecutor, who opened the box of evidence slowly. He removed a tiny pile of printed-up screenshots. The messages that shattered the courtroom. The prosecutor raised the first page. Prosecutor. These are private text messages between Garrison Brown and Kody Brown, pulled from the phone of Garrison after his death. The room collectively drew in sharply. Reporters scrambled, pens scurrying across notepads. Prosecutor. With the court's permission, I will read them out. The judge nodded somberly. The prosecutor started reading, his voice weighed down by the seriousness of the words. Text message #1. Garrison Dad. I know we don't get along all the time, but I really need you to listen to me. I feel like I'm not important to you anymore. I just need to know you care. Kody, don't be so dramatic. I've got other things to concern myself about. Grow up and take care of your own issues. Text message #2. A week later. Please, Dad. I'm hurt. I feel like you've given up on me. Kody, you're not a kid anymore. Stop blaming me for your feelings. Text message #3. The final message before Garrison's death. Garrison, okay, I get it now. I won't bother you anymore. Goodbye, Dad. The courtroom was quieted to an absolute silence. Then the sound of crying pierced through. Christine fell against Janelle, her body quaking uncontrollably. Janelle screamed, holding onto Christine as she wept, tears in her eyes. Meri covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking. Robyn emitted a shrill scream and hid her face in her hands. Kody remained transfixed, his face ashen, eyes wide with horror. His mouth was open and shut, as though he wanted to say something. Yet no words escaped. Even the judge's voice trembled, as he cleared his throat. Judge, Mr. Brown. Do you refuse to admit that these are your messages? Kody's voice was rough when he finally spoke. Kody, I didn't mean it like that. He was so emotional, and I thought tough love would help him. Logan's voice pierced through, raw and angry. Logan, tough love. Dad, he was pleading you for help, and you told him to grow up and face it on his own. Logan banged his fist on the stand, losing his cool. Logan, you don't get to call that tough love. That was abandonment. That was cruelty. The video recording the prosecutor nodded to the bailiff, who rolled in a small monitor. Prosecutor. There is one more piece of evidence. A video that Garrison recorded just 2 days before his death. The gallery gasped as one. Christine emitted a strangling sob, burying her face in her hands. Prosecutor. This video was obtained from Garrison's personal laptop. With permission from the court, we will show it now. The judge nodded gravely. The screen came to life. There was Garrison seated alone in a darkened room. His eyes were puffy and red, from tears. Garrison on video. I don't know if anybody will ever get to see this. But, I have to say it somewhere. I love my family. Even when it hurts. Even when they don't love me in return. I don't get why Dad doesn't want me. Why I'm not good enough. Christine screamed a strangled cry. And Janelle hugged her hard, crying hysterically. Garrison on video. I tried to be strong. I tried to fight for a place in this family. But I'm so tired now. If you look at this, please don't blame you. I can't keep hurting anymore like this. The video stopped. The courtroom was a chorus of sorrow. Sobs, gasps, muted whispers of shock. Even the judge had to put down his glasses to wipe away tears. The explosion of rage. Kody suddenly stood up. His face contorted with rage and desperation. Kody, you don't get it. You're distorting everything. I loved him, I didn't know how to express it. Christine leapt to her feet, her rage-filled voice shaking with anger. Christine, you didn't know how to express it. He pleaded with you, Kody. He pleaded with you for your love. And you rebuffed him every single time. Janelle waved a trembling finger in Kody's direction. Janelle, you don't get to be the victim now. You failed him. You failed all of us. Robyn also got up, crying. Robyn, stop fighting. Stop tearing yourselves apart. Garrison is gone, and nothing will bring him back. But the room was past reason now. Family members yelled over one another. The gallery dissolved into pandemonium. Reporters frenziedly captured every detail. The judge pounded his gavel again and again. Judge, order. I call for order. At last, the room settled, though the air still snapped with tension. The final blow. The prosecutor wheeled back to Logan. Prosecutor. Logan, why did you wait until this moment to present this evidence? Logan's voice cracked. Logan, because I wanted to defend our family name. I thought, if I kept quiet, things would improve. But Garrison is dead, and silence won't restore him. It's time for the truth to be told, no matter how ugly it is. He turned to confront his father, crying openly. Logan, I loved you, Dad. I wanted to believe in you. But today, I see you for who you really are. Kody's face collapsed. For the first time, he had nothing to say. Only silence. The prosecutor spoke to the court. Prosecutor, Your Honor, this evidence speaks for itself. We believe it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Mr. Brown's actions or lack thereof directly contributed to Garrison's suffering and ultimate death. Christine wept, holding the photo of Garrison against her breast. The judge nodded gravely. Judge, court will be in recess until tomorrow, when closing arguments will be made. This session is adjourned. The gavel came down with a resounding crash. The cliffhanger when everyone stood to leave. Kody simply sat there, staring blankly in front of him. Christine, Janelle, and Meri left together, bound by sorrow and rage. Robyn was behind them, looking back at Kody with a combination of sympathy and revulsion. Logan touched Christine's shoulder. Logan, tomorrow, we finish this. Christine nodded, her face streaked with tears, and set hard with determination. The cameras outside burst with flashes, as reporters yelled out questions. The world knew now the whole ugly truth. And everyone knew. Tomorrow's verdict would forever alter this family. The courthouse was packed, to nearly bursting the next morning. They were packed shoulder to shoulder, cameras clicking like lightning, reporters yelling questions. No one was brave enough to answer. Inside, it was oppressive. The gallery was filled to capacity, and the air was so thick with tension. Breathing seemed to come with a price. The judge arrived, his face a grim mask of resolve. Judge Patterson. Today is the last day before closing arguments. I expect decorum. Another outburst like yesterday, and I'll clear the courtroom. Do I make myself clear? Everyone nodded in silence, the weight of his words registering. Kody sat at the defense table, pale and haunted-eyed. His swagger and bravado were long gone, replaced with a desperate, haunted expression. To his right, Robyn wiped her eyes with a tissue. shaking so hard that the tissue trembled too. On the other side of the room, Christine, Janelle, and Meri sat together. A wall of silent pain and outrage. Logan sat behind them, his protective hand on Christine's shoulder. The whole room was aware that today would either shatter this family utterly or disclose one last secret no one was ready for. The judge's warning. The judge slammed his gavel. Judge Patterson. We will continue. Prosecution, call your next witness. The prosecutor rose. Prosecutor, Your Honor. Prior to calling our next witness, we have one more item of evidence. Something discovered late last evening. The room erupted with murmurs. Christine spun around, her face etched with shock. Christine? Late last evening? What now? Janelle in a whisper. Christine? If they uncovered something new, it has to be enormous. Kody's head jerked up, his words quivering with rage. Kody, this is absurd. You can't hit me with evidence at the last minute. The judge scowled at him. Judge Patterson. Mr. Brown, keep quiet. The prosecution can continue. Kody pounded his fists on the table but held his tongue, his chest pumping in an effort to get himself under control. The missing journal. The prosecutor raised a leather-bound notebook for everyone in the courtroom to witness. Its pages were frayed, its cover cracked and worn. Prosecutor, this notebook was Garrison Brown's. It was discovered hidden under one of the floorboards in his bedroom. Christine gasped, her hands shaking as she covered her mouth. Christine? His notebook? Oh my God. The prosecutor nodded gravely. Prosecutor, in these pages, Garrison described his troubles, his sense of abandonment, and most significantly, he recorded significant conversations with his father. The gallery burst into murmurs so cacophonous that the judge had to bang his gavel again and again. Judge Patterson. Order, I will have silence, or I will clear this room. Gradually the commotion ceased. Prosecutor, with the court's permission, I will read one passage aloud. The judge nodded. The prosecutor opened the journal, his voice full of emotion. Garrison's journal, last entry, March 15th. Today was terrible. I called Dad again, hoping he would at least listen to me. I said I was feeling like I was fading away, that nobody could see me anymore. He said I was selfish. He said, I just wanted attention. Christine broke into sobs, clutching Janelle's hand so tightly that her knuckles turned white. The prosecutor continued reading, his voice trembling now. I don't understand why my love isn't enough for him. I try to be strong, to hold everything together, but I'm so tired. Sometimes I think the only way anyone will notice me is if I'm gone. The final sentence silenced the entire courtroom. Even the judge dipped his head, visibly disturbed. Christine dropped to the ground, sobbing. Janelle crumpled next to her, crying unashamed tears. Meri clamped a hand over her mouth, shaking back and forth as silent tears flooded her body. Kody pressed his face into his hands, his shoulders shaking strenuously. For the first time ever, he was actually broken. Christine's fury without warning. Christine stood. Her cheeks were smeared with tears, but her voice was a knife slashing through the silence. Christine? How dare you, Kody? The courtroom jumped at her explosive yell. Christine? He pleaded with you for love. He begged you to look at him. And you turned your back on him like he meant nothing. Kody groaned, lifting his head, his eyes bloodshot and crazed. Kody, Christine, stop. You don't know what. Christine, don't you dare tell me. I don't understand. I watched him crumble, Kody. I held him while he cried himself to sleep, whispering that he just wanted his father to love him. Her voice cracked as she clutched her chest. Christine, and every single time you chose Robyn. You chose her family. You made it clear to Garrison and to all of us that we didn't matter. The room fell silent. Everyone's gaze turned to Robyn, who was now crying hysterically. Robyn breaks down. Robyn leapt from her chair, shaking her head wildly. Robyn, no, that's not true. I never wanted this. Christine lashed out at her, her anguish giving way to raw anger. Christine? You sat there, Robyn, and watched him slip away. You let Kody ignore him as you played the perfect wife. Robyn, I tried, Christine. I pleaded with Kody to call him. I told him again and again to do what was right. But he wouldn't listen. She addressed Kody, speaking in a shaking voice. Robyn, tell them, Kody. Tell them I tried. Kody's lips parted, but nothing emerged. His silence was louder than any admission. Meri speaks the truth. Meri had spent most of the trial sitting quietly, her feelings closed up. But now she stood slowly. Her face pale, but her voice firm. Meri, you both need to stop. You want the truth. The truth is, Kody has always picked favorites. First me, then Christine, then Robyn. He goes where the attention is. She faced Kody completely, her eyes afire with years of bottled-up rage. Meri, you didn't fail Garrison. Kody, you failed all of us. You dismantled this family piecemeal in front of us, hoping you'd get better. The gallery erupted into applause and moans, the feeling too powerful to be repressed. The judge slammed his gavel wildly. Judge Patterson. Order. I will not stand for this uproar. Kody's meltdown. Kody stood on his feet, his face contorted in anger and sorrow. Kody, stop blaming me. I'm not the monster that you all make me out to be. I loved Garrison. I love all my children, but none of you have any idea what it's like to be me. The pressure, the expectations. Christine sneered the words like venom. Christine? This isn't about you, Kody. It's about Garrison. He needed his dad, and you weren't there. Kody pounded his fists on the table. Kody, I did my best. Logan rose to his feet, his voice thundering out around the room. Logan, your best wasn't good enough. The gallery exploded again, the din ear-shattering. The judge yelled over the pandemonium. Judge Patterson. Silence. This is my final warning. Gradually the room fell silent again, though the tension still crackled like a live wire. The hidden recording, the prosecutor coughed, his expression stern. Prosecutor, Your Honor, we have one final item of evidence, a recording obtained without the knowledge of Kody. Kody's head jerked up. Kody. What? That's illegal. Prosecutor, not if it was done in a public environment. This was recorded at a family meeting just weeks prior to Garrison's death. The judge nodded for him to go on. The audio sounded, filling the courtroom. Kody's voice sounded, cold and dismissive. Kody recording, I can't baby Garrison anymore. If he wants my attention, he needs to earn it. I have a new family now. Robyn and the kids, they come first. The others, well, they'll just have to get used to it. Christine let out a raw scream, falling into Janelle's arms. Meri buried her ears, crying hysterically. Even Robyn's face paled, as the words replayed over and over. Kody sat motionless, his whole body shaking. The judge's command. The judge's face was black with rage. Judge Patterson, this court will recess. When we reconvene, closing arguments will commence. He brought the gavel down so forcefully it resonated like a clap of thunder. The fallout in the halls outside the courtroom. As the courtroom grew empty, pandemonium spilled into the corridors. Reporters mobbed the family, yelling questions. Christine and Janelle were escorted away by security, their faces buried behind tear-drenched hands. Meri stood alone, shaking, as cameras popped continually around her. Logan stood firm, responding definitively. Logan, the truth is finally out. Tomorrow justice will be served. Meanwhile, Kody and Robyn sneaked out a side door, both of them resembling ghosts of their former selves. The cliffhanger for Section 5. As the sun dipped outside the courthouse, a storm brewed. Lightning flashed across the sky, reflecting the devastation within that family. Inside the courtroom, the judge steeled himself for the toughest verdict of his career. Tomorrow it would all be over, but for the moment, the world waited with bated breath to know if Kody Brown would face justice or go scot-free. The day of the verdict dawned with an oppressive hush. Dark clouds lingered low on the horizon, keeping pace with the tempest within the breasts of everybody who was about to enter the courthouse. Journalists waited like vultures outside, their cameras clicking the moment the Brown family vans arrived. The Globe watched, hoping against hope to see how this tragedy played out. Inside the courthouse, the atmosphere was tense, practically electric. All the seats were taken. The walls vibrated with tension. Christine held a framed picture of Garrison against her chest, her eyes puffy and red from unending tears. Next to her, Janelle held Christine's hand, her jaw set in resolve. Meri sat in silence, her complexion pale but determined. Logan stood erect behind them, his presence a calm influence, though his hands shook a little. At the far end of the room, Kody and Robyn slipped in unobtrusively. Robyn's eyes were streaked with mascara from tearful nights. Kody was a man already condemned, his proud stance gone, his eyes sunken and bloodshot. The bailiff's voice thundered through the courtroom. "Bailiff, all rise." The Honorable Judge Patterson presiding. Everyone rose as the judge entered. He appeared older than he had just a few days prior, the burden of this case plainly evident in the creases of his face. "Judge Patterson, be seated." The room sat, but the tension did not dissipate. It only became heavier, thicker, more stifling. The final words before the verdict, Judge Patterson. "Before we go on to the verdict, I will hear final words from both sides." The prosecutor stood up first, his tone serene but with a burst of emotion. "Prosecutor, Your Honor, this case is not merely one of legal accountability. It is one of a young man who felt ignored, not heard, and not loved by the very one sworn to care for him. We have heard the witness accounts, witnessed the text messages, read the diary, and listened to recordings that left no doubt. Garrison Brown didn't fall through the cracks. He was pushed." Christine quietly wept, holding Janelle close. "Prosecutor, this court can send a message, not to this family alone, but to families across this nation. Neglect and emotional abuse have consequences. Ask you to hold Mr. Brown accountable, so that Garrison's voice can be heard at last." The prosecutor sat back down to absolute silence in the courtroom. Kody's defense lawyer stepped forward, fidgeting with his tie. Defense attorney, Your Honor, my client is a blemished man, yes, but not a criminal. He loved his son the only way he knew how. Imperfectly maybe, but honestly. Acrimonious words were hurled. Errors occurred, but these were the errors of a father under almighty duress. Kody bowed his head, silent tears streaming down his face. Defense attorney, punishing him will not bring Garrison back. It will only tear this family further apart. We ask the court to consider compassion, and to recognize that grief, not guilt, is what truly brought us here today. The attorney sat, and for a moment, the only sound in the room was Christine's soft, broken sobbing. The judge speaks. Judge Patterson looked out over the courtroom, his eyes filled with sorrow. "Judge Patterson, I have presided over many difficult cases in my career, but never one quite like this. A family torn apart, a young man lost too soon, and a courtroom drowning in grief and anger." He paused, his voice faltering for just a second before he continued. "Judge Patterson, this case has forced us all to confront a painful truth. Sometimes the deepest wounds are not visible. They are etched into the soul, by neglect, by silence, by spoken and unspoken." Christine cleaned her tears, her breath hitching as the heaviness of his words hung in the air. The verdict, the voice of the judge became firm as he read out the judgment everyone was waiting to hear. "Judge Patterson, having considered all evidence, testimony, and the law, this court holds Kody Brown guilty of emotional neglect leading to wrongful death." The room exploded. Gasps, wails, and screams filled the room. Christine dropped to her knees, Garrison's photo held to her chest, as tears of relief and anguish streamed down her face. Janelle wrapped her arms around her tightly, crying out loud. Meri dissolved into silent sobs, her face hidden behind her hands. Robyn screamed, a raw, heart-shattering sound, before she stumbled against the defense table, trembling. Kody sat motionless, mouth agape in shock. "Kody, no, no, this isn't right. I didn't kill him. I didn't kill my son." The judge hammered his gavel again and again. "Judge Patterson, order. I will have order." But the room was now out of control. Reporters yelled questions. Family members wept and yelled over each other. The din was deafening. Christine confronts Kody. Christine got up slowly, her tears replaced with pure searing anger. She approached the middle of the courtroom, just a few feet from Kody. "Christine, you want to claim you didn't kill him. Perhaps you didn't pull the trigger, Kody, but you murdered him every time you disregarded him. You murdered him every time you preferred Robyn to him. You murdered him when you made him feel worthless." Kody shuddered his head emphatically. crying uncontrollably. Kody, Christine, please. I didn't intend for any of it to occur, Christine. But it did happen. And now you have to live with what you've done. No more excuses. No more lies. The room was silent for a moment, as Christine's words resounded like thunder. Logan's final words. Logan moved forward, standing at his mother's side. His words were firm, but dripping with quiet anger. Logan, Dad, I wanted to believe in you. I defended you when everyone else walked away. But now, here, I see what you are. He stopped, his gaze fixed on Kody's. Logan, you didn't lose just Garrison today. You lost all of us. Kody's face collapsed utterly. For the first time, he really realized what he had ruined. The judge's sentence. The judge cleared his throat to restore order to the room. Judge Patterson, considering the nature of this case and the special circumstances, this court hereby sentences Kody Brown to 2 years of mandatory counseling and 1 year of supervised family mediation, along with financial restitution to the estate of Garrison. Christine's face fell, torn. It wasn't the sentence she desired, not by far enough to assuage the hurt he'd inflicted, but it was still accountability. Judge Patterson, this case is closed. He banged the gavel, and there was nothing more to it. The aftermath outside of the courthouse. Reporters buzzed like bees. Christine, Janelle, and Logan led the way out, flanked by security. Camera flashes illuminated the darkening sky, as reporters yelled questions. Reporter Christine, do you think justice was served? Christine halted, still weeping tears down her cheeks. Christine, nothing can ever bring my son back. But today, his voice was finally heard, and that matters. Logan moved forward, his voice firm. Logan, this isn't the end. This is the beginning of healing for our family, and for everyone who has ever felt unseen. Robyn and Kody's exit. A short time later, Kody and Robyn appeared in a side door, accompanied by their lawyer. Robyn was still sobbing, holding on to Kody's arm for balance. Kody's face was expressionless, the look of a man who'd lost everything. Journalists yelled his name, but he did not stir. For the first time in his existence, Kody Brown had no words left. The final scene, as people slowly started to fade away. Christine was left standing alone on the courthouse steps, with Garrison's photo in her hand. She spoke softly, more or less to herself. Christine, I hope you can rest now, baby. We fought for you, and we'll keep fighting. Lightning flashed in the distance, with a low boom of thunder. The tempest had unleashed itself, both outside and inside this broken family. Christine wheeled and departed, her figure lit by the camera flashes. A mother who had lost all, but who would not be silenced. Closing narration for YouTube voiceover, with dramatic music. Ultimately, the trial didn't expose just one man's shortcomings. It brought to light the fissures in a family founded on deceptions, falsehoods, and shattered vows. Garrison's voice rang out in that courtroom, calling for justice, and reminding us all that the worst wounds are the ones you can't see. Today's verdict might have closed this case, but the saga of this family is far from finished.